To get back at her former employer, she made a special chocolate pie.
Sorry.
Sure enough, even the worst person couldn't resist good food.
What do you put in here that makes it taste so good?
That good vanilla from Mexico. And something else real special.
The woman's mood instantly improved, and she decided to rehire the maid. But instead of offering a fair wage, she kept belittling and humiliating her. The maid didn't argue back. She just quietly watched her eat one piece after another, until the woman's mother suddenly burst in. The old lady had always been kind to her, so the maid quickly stopped her. The woman didn't understand. She arrogantly pushed the plate aside. Order the maid to cut a piece for her mother. That haughty attitude finally provoked Minnie.
Eat my shit.
What'd you say?
I said eat my shit.
Hilly froze. Looking at the remaining pie, her stomach churned. Her mother, who had long been disgusted by her daughter's mean behavior, almost laughed herself sick. Minnie did this because she was fed up with Hilly's unbridled insults toward black people on every occasion, saying they carried all kinds of germs. She would even deliberately mark the toilet paper to keep black maids from using the indoor bathroom. Minnie had endured it silently, until one stormy night, a typhoon was blowing. The outdoor bathroom designated for black people was dozens of meters from the main house. Minnie hesitated. Hilly's mother said it was fine, just use the indoor bathroom, but Hilly wouldn't budge. She told Minnie to take an umbrella and go outside. Looking at the raging wind, Minnie decided to use the excuse of making tea and quietly slipped into the indoor bathroom. She thought she could get away with it just this once, but Hilly wouldn't let it go. She followed her and demanded to know what Minnie was doing in there. Since she was already caught, Minnie didn't back down this time. Hilly started banging on the door and screaming. And so, on that rainy, stormy night, Minnie was fired. But Hilly's cruelty didn't stop there. She spread rumors everywhere, falsely accusing Minnie of being a thief. In that conservative, closed-minded town, such a stain on her reputation could destroy her livelihood. So one morning, Minnie carried out her revenge perfectly. Though it was satisfying, she could no longer find work anywhere. With no income, her family's finances collapsed completely. Waiting for her at home was her husband's beating. To make ends meet, Minnie had to pull her 14-year-old daughter out of school and send her to work as a maid for a white family. She told her daughter not to talk back. After all, they were born black. It was 1963 in Mississippi. The sun shone brightly, but it couldn't pierce the shadow of racial discrimination. Minnie's ancestors were slaves. Her family had served white households for generations. She had thought that there was no hope in her life. Then, unexpectedly, she got another chance. This newlywed housewife welcomed her warmly. Unlike other white employers who acted superior from the start, she first apologized sincerely for the mess in the house. The truth was, Celia's situation was also unusual. She was white, but because she came from a lower class, she was completely excluded from the local white social circle led by Hilly. She lived alone in her husband's mansion. She couldn't cook, didn't know how to do housework, and was terrified that her husband would find out. She couldn't even handle the most basic duties of a homemaker, so she was hiring a maid. When she heard Minnie say she was willing to work there, Celia jumped up and down with joy like a little girl. It was the first time Minnie had been hugged by a white person. She felt a bit awkward, but without realizing it, she had opened a crack in her heart. Celia was pretty, outgoing and warm. What was even rarer was that she never treated Minnie like a servant. She gave her full respect. She would have Minnie eat with her at the table, rather than sending her meal to the kitchen like other white families. And Minnie's patient companionship brought Celia a sense of home. Unfortunately, these peaceful days didn't last long. One day, while Minnie was cleaning, she heard an unusual noise from upstairs. She hurried to knock on the door, but no one answered. Realizing something was wrong, Minnie had no choice but to break the door down. There she found Celia lying in a pool of blood, her face pale. She had fallen and miscarried. Fortunately, she found her in time. Celia's life wasn't in danger, but the baby she had so eagerly awaited was gone. In her most vulnerable and helpless moment, Minnie set aside all the usual boundaries with an employer, and became her shield in the most clumsy yet sincere way. And Celia never took that protection for granted. When Minnie suffered domestic abuse, Celia would warm her wounded heart in her own way, teaching her to fight back against her abusive husband, tit for tat. After years of silent endurance, Minnie heard for the first time, from a white person, the voice of resistance on her behalf. She realized that skin color didn't have to separate them. Then, another white woman suddenly entered her life.
I got to come up with questions too? Oh.
Her name was Eugenia. She had just graduated from college and returned to her hometown. Ironically, she had grown up as best friends with Hilly, but now, all their childhood friends were married with children, and she was the odd one out. During a chat, Hilly started ranting again, saying there should be a law banning black people from using white bathrooms. The other society ladies nodded along. Only Eugenia couldn't resist making a sharp remark about Hilly's harshness, because Eugenia had been raised by a black maid, Constantine. In her heart, Constantine was family. But when she came home this time, her parents casually told her that Constantine had been let go. Eugenia couldn't believe it. Constantine had raised her and worked in this house for 29 years. How could her mother bear to drive her away? She left the gathering in anger. Outside, on a stone bench in the garden, she saw mementos of her time with Constantine. As a child, because she was tall and introverted, Eugenia was often ostracized by her classmates. But gentle Constantine always comforted her. Tall people can see farther, and quiet children hold more thoughts inside. You're going to do something big with your life. That gentle protection had accompanied Eugenia throughout her childhood. Perhaps that longing inspired her. She had a bold idea, to write a book about black maids. Through the power of words, she would expose the injustices they suffered and help change their situation. Back then in America, promoting racial equality and publishing anything related to it was illegal. But Eugenia's sincerity moved Minnie and her friend Abby. Abby had spent most of her life caring for white children. She poured all her heart into them, treating them as her own. But in return, she often received discrimination and coldness. Her deepest pain was the death of her 24-year-old son. Because of a white boss's negligence, her son died on a construction site. The boss tossed them $200 and dismissed the young life. The grief of losing her son gnawed at her constantly, and she could only suffer in silence. They risked sharing their stories, but other maids were afraid to be interviewed. They worried that if anyone found out, they would not only lose their jobs but face even more terrifying retaliation. Until one morning, they witnessed a fellow maid being roughly taken away by the police. When she tried to go back for her purse, the police thought she was resisting. Abby quickly called out for her not to resist, but immediately after that, a stick hit her. Originally, this maid was the one who had replaced Minnie after Hilly fired her. She needed to advance her wages to put her two sons through school, but Hilly cruelly humiliated her instead. Until one day, while cleaning, she happened to find a ring behind the sofa. On one side were her son's futures, on the other, the risk of prison. In the end, the weight of survival overcame her fear of the law. She had planned to earn some money and quietly redeem it, but Hilly had no intention of leaving her any way out. This incident gave other maids the courage to speak up. Those who had previously stayed silent stepped forward.
I'm gonna help with your stories.
I'm on help too. We all are.
Some of them, in their master's wills, had been bequeathed like objects to a descendant. Others, for accidentally stepping on a white person's land, had a gun pointed at their heads. Their dignity had been trampled into dust, but they never forgot who they were. As the interviews went deeper, Eugenia became more certain that Constantine's departure must have had another reason. She knew her mother, though also a society lady, was not mean. After repeated questioning, her mother finally confessed the truth. Behind it all was a deliberately hidden past. That day, her mother had just been offered an important position. It was a big day for her. At a grand party at their home, Constantine's daughter suddenly returned, wanting to surprise her. Ordinarily, Eugenia's mother wouldn't have minded at all. But that day, with so many white people watching her reaction, she roughly and harshly ordered the girl to wait in the kitchen. The girl, however, refused to back down and pushed her way in. In front of all the guests, this was a direct defiance of the host. The most influential white lady among the guests remarked that it was utterly unbearable for a black person to be so rude in a white home. And so, to save face, her mother had no choice but to fire Constantine on the spot and order them to leave immediately. Of course, her mother hadn't forgotten 29 years of bond, but at that moment, she still chose to bow to so-called propriety. By the time her mother tried to bring Constantine back home, she had already left the state. 3 months later, elderly Constantine, heartbroken, passed away. Grief-stricken by the truth, Eugenia was even more determined. She had to make the truth public. But just before the book was to be published, news came that a black civil rights activist had been assassinated. Society was shocked. Racial tensions boiled over. Black people were forced off buses by white workers. Shootings of black people broke out everywhere. The black community was shrouded in grief and fear. Publishing the book at that time was like risking their lives. But they didn't back down. They only used pseudonyms. This time, they would use their own stories to prove that black people were not born to be servants. They had thoughts, feelings, and dignity. They had simply been stripped of their choices by the era and the system. Soon, the book quietly came out. Without any promotion, word spread from person to person. It became a story everyone was reading.
She said, my shit.
As its influence grew, witnesses and those involved read it. Some lay awake all night. Some felt private shame, and some flew into a rage. The next morning, Hilly stormed into Eugenia's house without any composure and questioned her. She threatened to call the police and have Eugenia and the maids thrown in jail. But Eugenia knew Hilly had no evidence, and she would never admit to eating that chocolate pie. Hilly was left speechless. When threats didn't work, she turned around and complained to Eugenia's mother. But after all these events, Eugenia's mother had seen the light. She unhesitatingly kicked Hilly out, finally breaking free from the hypocritical chains of high society. Meanwhile, Minnie went to work at Celia's house as she usually did. Suddenly, a man drove up and stopped behind her, calling her name. Minnie was terrified, her mind filled with horror and despair. She thought she was about to be shot, but the man quickly caught up to her and said he meant no harm. His wife, Celia, had confessed everything to him. He already knew about Minnie's existence. After all, no one else could raise the level of cooking so dramatically in a single day. He thanked Minnie for taking care of his wife. Then he walked with Minnie into the house. There, Celia had carefully prepared a full table of food. She was dressed up just to host Minnie as her only guest. Her eyes sparkled with sincerity charity and gratitude. Minnie felt a warmth and respect she had never experienced before. In that moment, the sunlight of friendship finally broke through the clouds of race and fell upon the table filled with delicious food. The essence of helping is never the strong giving charity to the weak. It is every life truly seeing another. Likewise, equality is not some distant, unreachable ideal. It lives in every choice to reject prejudice, in every act of courage to speak for others. Perhaps we can never completely eliminate all prejudice, but as long as people keep speaking out bravely, keep refusing to compromise, keep holding on to their kindness, the small lights of helping will keep gathering. On the road to equality, there are no bystanders. Everyone is the protagonist of the continuing story.